So lots of questions are now mounting for Justin Trudeau and his government from within. There are members of his own government and others who have started to speak out. Let me go across to our guest joining us. Veena Sikri is former Indian diplomat. Also Manan Gupta is an immigration consultant who's joining us live from Brampton, joining us. We're also waiting for Dean Baxendale, a columnist from Toronto. Veena Sikri, I want to understand from you, the kind of statements that the MEA has made today. They are some of the strongest statements that India has made for any country. In fact, they have talked about safe havens for terror in Canada. These are words we reserve only for countries like Pakistan so far. What do you make of the MEA's response?
Well, I think the MEA is fully justified. The Ministry of External Affairs and the Government of India are fully justified in the statements they have made, because it is unconscionable, it is unbelievable that the Prime Minister of Canada, in a statement in Parliament, is accusing India of participation in the killing of this terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar in the month of June, without providing a shred of evidence. Not a shred of evidence. The most important point made by our spokesman today was this: there is no evidence. And even the words used by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, credible allegations of a potential link.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
Nothing has been proved. Now, the point is, for 3 months, the month of June, when the murder took place, for 3 months, presumably the Canadian police had been mounting some investigations and inquiries. And if they have any evidence, they should share it with the Indian government and discuss it. But nothing of the sort was done. And instead, Prime Minister Trudeau chooses to make the statement in Parliament based on this kind of a completely unacceptable allegation, based on hearsay, based on a lack of evidence. Now, I think that the reaction, and then he also expelled a senior Indian diplomat. The Indian government was fully within its right to take counter action to expel expel a Canadian senior diplomat from Delhi. But then the point comes that look at the ongoing activity in Canada by these Khalistani separatist groups. Now, they have called for all Hindus to leave Canada. Now, can you imagine that, you can call for this kind of division between communities in Canada, which says it is a pluralist democracy, on the basis of religion?
No, and the worst is that none of the Canadian government members are willing to show the same alacrity on these statements that they show, for example, on Nijjar's killing. I believe we've lost the link for Manan Gupta. I wanted to go across to him. But till that time, I do want to ask you, Veena Sikri, about India taking that move, although they've said this is for operational reasons, India taking that move to halt visa processing. In fact, let me take that to Manan Gupta. Many people believe this is, of course, the Brahmastra that India holds. Processing of visas to be held. They've not directly linked it to the fact that, Canada has been escalating the issue with India, but they have said that Indian diplomats are under threat and in danger in Canada, which is affecting their day-to-day working. How do you look at the steps that India has taken, and what are the responses you are hearing in Canada over that?
Well, thank you very much for having me, and definitely today's announcement related to the suspension of Indian visas from Canadian consulates and High Commission, definitely it has not been well received. There is a lot of concern amongst Indian diaspora. There is a lot of confusion that what lies ahead, because many of the Indian diaspora, they have OCI cards, which is Overseas Citizen of India card. So people don't know what is coming up, because it's going to be a very busy festive season. People travel a lot during upcoming months. So there is a bit of a panic. But having said that, issuing visas is a prerogative of any country. So India has taken that harsh step today. We don't know what Canada is going to reciprocate. But right now, there is a bit of confusion, anxiety, and a lot of panic.
Okay. Dean Baxendale is also joining us. Dean, I want to understand from you, where do you see this going? Many felt that Justin Trudeau should not have made the public allegations he did, plunging Indo-Canadian relationships to perhaps the lowest level ever. And there's no saving this anymore, because while he says that he doesn't want to escalate or provoke India, the Canadian actions are exactly to the contrary. So one, what do you read into Justin Trudeau's actions, and where do you see this going?
First of all, thank you for having me on today. This is obviously accelerated in terms of the reactions and on both sides here. I think the reality is that Justin Trudeau, based on the information that he believes to be valid, had the Canadian government had CSIS and probably RCMP came to India and probably had a number of discussions with their intelligence counterparts with respect to what they had seen and shared that information. I think that the denial by the Indian government is obviously appropriate. Where we're not, hopefully India is not going around assassinating people. Having said that, Justin Trudeau has accelerated this in the public in Canada. It looks like for political gain. Ultimately, he needs to come out showing that he's actually combating foreign interference and maybe using this in part to deflect from the real issue, which surrounds China and China's infiltration, espionage operations in Canada. In part, listening today to watching the presser from the Indian government foreign affairs, I found it quite fascinating that he brought up the organized crime elements inside Canada, and that these in part are funding terrorist actions by Sikh separatists that have been in this country for some time and have been of concern to the Indian government. So I think that Justin Trudeau and the government has seen foreign interference. India has been engaged in Canada in terms of counterintelligence and intelligence operations for 40 plus years. This is done all the time, so this should be nothing new. CSIS is well aware of it, as would the American counterparts of such operations. But where this goes right now is anybody's guess, and I would suggest that we need to dial back, these actions and sit down again and work on solutions for both sides.
Maybe that ship has sailed, at least as far as Justin Trudeau is the Prime Minister. But I do want to ask you, is there no concern in Canada that a lot of these Khalistani elements, which I'm sure many of the Canadian society is well aware of because they've been there in Canada for quite some decades, is there no concern that they issue death threats against Indian diplomats? They're now particularly targeting Hindu Indo-Canadians, and the government seems to be doing nothing. Those threats don't fall under freedom of speech.
Yeah, well, so let's just go back here very quickly. Niger was actually given his Canadian citizenship by the former government under Stephen Harper. So it was not Justin Trudeau that gave him his citizenship. So I think that should be noted for all Indian viewers and viewers around the world. But to answer your question, the diaspora community, both Sikhs and Hindus inside Canada, actually are quite concerned on both sides, and that from the Sikh side, they feel as if the Indian government is leveraging this against them. And they feel very uncomfortable. And on the other side, there has been a ratcheting up over a number of years of what I would consider almost hate speech by people within the Sikh community. And by the way, we're talking a very, very small number of individuals that are inciting this kind of
I get that. Actually, this is not about the Sikh community in Canada. What I'm asking is the responsibility to act against those, small number of individuals that you talk about, even if they're ratcheting up the hate speech. The responsibility lies with the Canadian government to clamp down on them. We don't see that happening.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. But this speaks to a larger and bigger issue around transnational repression and operations inside various Western democracies, where governments are afraid to confront, diaspora communities for fear of being called racist and taking a particular party line.
Okay,
However,
I'm not sure if
don't-
that's what's playing out here, Dean, with due respect, because I don't think in this case, attacking of the Hindu community is not being spoken about because of fears of racism. In fact, the fact that Hindu community attacks are not being spoken about is racism.